career and money from purpose and success. It can be parallel, not exactly the same thing. Can you expand on that?
For sure. I mean, I think career and money are vehicles to purpose, but they aren't purpose unto themselves. So they're tools, right? So hopefully our career creates a place we like going. And if we're lucky, we enjoy what we do every day. That way you have a purposeful career. Money is the same way. If money is your purpose, you're going to be upset and unhappy because you're going to get that money, but you're going to be like, what's next? You're going to be afraid of losing it, or you're going to want to double how much you have because you reached this thing that you thought was important and find that it's kind of empty. So the idea is when we make purpose less goal oriented and more process oriented. So what will money act as a tool to allow us to do? How it'll help free up our time? Or what job do we want to take that we enjoy the process of doing and not just enjoy the goal of making money or the goal of getting to that next step in your career? And so I think jobs are important, and I think making money is important. The idea is, how do we spend as much time being purposeful as possible? For some people, that'll mean doing a job that's highly purposeful for them. So if I had started my career and instead of doing what I did, I had just done hospice work, I could have both built the career around that, made money, and did something that was purposeful. So that's going to be some percentage of our population. There are other people in our population who are going to say, you know what, I'm really good at this thing and I can make money doing it and it's not purposeful for me. But then you got to be really thoughtful about saying, okay, when I'm not at work, this money I'm making in this career, what does it afford me the space and time to then start doing purposeful things in my free time? So I'm not going to be Pollyanna. It's not like we have to spend every moment of our lives being purposeful, especially when we're young. Sometimes you just need to make money. But how do we use our careers? How do we use money? How do we use our lives to look at our time periods, however many time slots we have in life, and how do we fill as many of those as possible with purposeful activities? At different times in our life, that's going to be different. But my goal is ultimately you get to a point where most of your time is being spent doing things that light you up and that feel purposeful, and less of your time is going to be spent doing things that you have to do or things that you loathe. And so that's how I connect the two. So it's great if you find purpose in your job. It's great if you find purpose in making money. But if you don't, then you have to really work at those other parts of life to make sure that purpose still shows up every day.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept also, that is that we, over the decades, technology, industrial, advancements, it used to be where, the executives had more free time, whereas labor worked more hours. And what happened is it kind of flipped, where the executives are working more hours, and the day job, we've got more time in the day to contemplate our purpose. And I guess that's where, we fill our time the wrong way, or we contemplate purpose and then leads to stress because we're not actually working towards that purpose. How? And this is maybe that next question with the transitioning from something that's not fulfilling, not purpose-driven career, into something that it creates purpose or fills our life with more purpose. How do you get started if your day is full of work?
So I think there are a number of answers to this. First and foremost, we have to find what looks like purpose in our lives. And I say this multiple times in the book. You don't find purpose, you create it. It's a very active thing. But we do have to consider what things light us up. And those are what I call purpose anchors. These are these inklings of what we like to do, which we then build purpose around. So one of the first things we have to do is, if you find yourself unhappy in your situation, work or otherwise, or if you feel like there's not enough purpose in your life, you have to start identifying these purpose anchors. And in the book, I talk about a lot of different ways to do this. My first book talked about the life review process. So with hospice patients, we go through a structured series of questions where we ask them about their greatest achievements, their worst failures, their most important relationships, their happiest moments, their unhappiest moments, their regrets. And these all can become templates for purpose in someone who is living and isn't dying soon, like my hospice patients. So purpose can actually come from regrets. Find what those regrets you have in your life through something like a life review and turn them into purpose, which is the possibility of actually doing those things you want to do. That's one way. I also tell people in the book another way is to look at childhood. A lot of times the joys of our childhood actually are very purposeful for us. And eventually we become adults and tell ourselves that we have to get a job, or society puts us into a cubbyhole of what it thinks we should be. And we let go of those joys of childhood. So I tell people, think back to your childhood room. What were the posters? What were the things you loved? Were there medals for horse riding? Did you love, being an equestrian? Were there pictures of sports? Did you love playing football or basketball or baseball? Did you have collectibles? All of these things can be inklings, or what I call anchors of purpose. If we're talking about the workplace, another great place to start looking for anchors of purpose is in work. What is that part of your day you absolutely enjoy? Let's say you loathe work in general, but there's that one thing you like doing, or that one day you don't loathe going to work because you get to do that thing. Well, this gets back to the art of subtraction we talk about in my first book, but how do we take what we don't like out of work and fill it up with more of what we do like? And there's a bunch of other ways. We can throw spaghetti against the wall, right? You can try a bunch of things and find out what feels good to you. So these are ways of finding your purpose anchors. Once you have an inkling of what purpose looks like in your life, then we'd use what I call the art of subtraction, the joy of addition, and then substitution, right? So if you're working 9 to 5 and you loathe your job, what can you do? Well, you can look at your job and try to get rid of those things you loathe the most. So if there's activities you don't like at work, you can try to do less of those. Let's say there's 1 or 2 activities you do like, you can try to add those in. The joy of addition is, hey, I'm really good at doing inventory, and I do inventory once a week, and I share this with 5 other people. Why don't I see if I can take over maybe 2 of those 3 people's jobs and do the inventory for them, and then offload something I don't like and give that to those people who no longer like inventory. So again, what we do is we start with what we have. For someone else, it might be like, I don't like this profession I'm in and I have this other skill set. I'm going to go get a job in this other skill set. So you're using subtraction and addition, or maybe substitution. Maybe what I loathe about my job is not the job itself, but I don't like my boss. So maybe I'm going to go work for a different division. I'm going to substitute one division for the next. So that's how we start, is we start with the easiest and simplest. How can we change things at the moment and our job? After we've done that, whether that means changing your job, getting a new job, working in a different division, or possibly saying, I've tried everything I can and I can't change things at work, then we go to the rest of our time. Look, the Bureau of Labor does a US time survey study like every year, every few years, and they looked at free time in America, and they found that your average American has something like 5 hours of free time every day. And so in those 5 hours of free time, even if you are not doing anything different at work, you can start building purpose, creating purpose around these anchors during your free time. And so you haven't changed your work life at all, but at least you're building more purpose in your life. Maybe during that free time, you do something that eventually creates money or begins a side hustle or gets you interested in a different profession. And before you know it, you're substituting out the job you don't like for a new job, one doing things you do like. And because you've been spending these extra hours doing purposeful stuff, you've gained some new skills or made some new relationships. So it's an incremental process. It's not like you wake up tomorrow and say, I want to live a life of purpose. You stop everything you're doing and start a whole new life. A lot of times it's taking a real look at what you have already, looking at what these purpose anchors are in your life, and then using subtraction, addition, and substitution to use more of your time to do these things that fill you up and use less of your time to do these things you loathe. And if you can do that in this incremental way, you're going to have a better life tomorrow than you have today. And you're certainly going to have a better life in 6 months or a year than you have right now.